I left the house to be on my own, it was a terrible thing. I didn't know how to relate with the people outside. And I started working there. And I just look at it, I say, okay, let me just see what I can do apart from my paid job. Actually, I read home economics, so I do bake. And when I bake like that, people who aroma coming from. So the day they discovered, a friend just came and said, is it possible for her to know how to do this thing? As a young girl, I said, no problem, just come. And that was how I started free for them. So when I grew up, when I got married, so many other things, and I look at it, I say, there are some girls that are living the same life that don't, because I didn't actually know myself. And I said, oh, at a certain age of my life, by the time I stop working, I'm going to do something, have an NGO to impact the life of young girls around. That was how it started.
I would like to ask you, I would like you to share your personal experience being in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and all that. How has the experience been, and are there inequalities in STEM?
Okay, I'll say this in summary. I graduated in 2013 from the university, but for a year I remember getting depressed because I was unemployed. Imagine going to school, spending some years, okay, you're proud that, oh, economics, you get a good job. But I was so disappointed because the good jobs that was available required technical skills, and I didn't have it. So I'm coming from the university where everything is just theoretical based. So it made me to go back to the scoreboard. I needed to enroll myself into like a data science school to learn business intelligence and all. But it didn't just stop there because, okay, I got a good job, but I needed to also change this narrative. I felt that other people will also be lacking what I experienced. So I said, okay, let me just start this initiative where we teach young people how to do some programming, have some knowledge in data science and all. But fast forward to if there is inequality, yes, it's existing. Because imagine someone going through all this, you are building your capability, you are already refined. Now getting into this particular space, you find out that there is still segregation. So what's now the need? So it's existing, but we tell people, we try to build people's confidence that focus on your focus on what you want to do. Because it's there. You can't fight it. You can't start changing policies. It will come. But what are you doing to change the narrative? Even in my own space, you find out that most of the people that are delving into like NGOs related to STEM are men. But I'm still doing what I'm doing, and I'm still happy. It's there, but I'm putting in measures just to make sure that even if it's existing, I am also trying to shy away from all those things and just take the step forward.
I think the media is one of the most unequal spaces when we come to career progression, when we come to job hazard, and things or issues that surround the workplace. You don't see women often, and this is reflected even in the content that people put out. I've had times without number. This is my home. This is our operating base. I've had, to times without number, point out certain headlines or certain content that, the managing editor wants to put out as a news editor and say, oh, okay, you didn't run this by me, why did this go out? And the reason I do that is because I realized that if we had enough women in this newsroom, for example, there are just a few of us, but if we had enough women, their perspectives would be reflected in the stories. For example, if a rape story is being reported, there's a tendency for most media houses to report it, to blame the victim or shame the victim or make it seem like it's the victim's fault. There are things you don't do, for example, that are unethical, like revealing the victim's face or the victim's full name, because you're trying to protect the victim from stigma and all that. But in a male-dominated newsroom, which is what is common, you see picture of the victim flying around, and you don't see the abuser, his picture flying about. This is because there are not enough women in the newsroom. Because I'm a woman and I know these things, because I've been able to attend maybe certain trainings or just by way of my orientation. But the lack of diversity in the newsroom has shaped the way it is. Also, when you go to the field, and there are days where we go out with the camera to cover events, and then you see, for example, I get my tribe when I want to stand it, and then there are other men, and they'll be pushing you as a woman, and then you ask yourself, and we're here to do the same job, we're here to record the same thing, why are you pushing me? I'll be like, my friend shift or stuff like that. But you have to stand your ground, because it's what you're passionate about, it's what you want to do. And the beauty of the media or journalism is that you're able to tell your story, or you're able to tell the story of women through the perspective and the lenses of women. So if there are more women participating in the media, I think that some of these issues that we are faced will be easier to deal with, because then you have women that are pushing for this issue. Because whether you like it or not, every media organization is biased. They are biased in the topics that they put out, in the stories that they report. You'll be amazed the number of stories that don't make it, past editorial to the front pages or to the website. And this is not by coincidence. But if you have women in positions of leadership, or even in the newsroom as reporters, it will be very easy to push out some of this, areas where women need to take more action in, like STEM, for example, or like maybe skill acquisition or human rights for women. Imagine if there was a column in every newspaper, on every online website, if there's someone, a female columnist, that was writing about women's rights consistently every month. Imagine the difference that will make. Or if there was someone that was writing about science, or why women or girls should get involved in science, that will make a lot of difference.
I'd like to ask you, what policies are in place to protect women's rights, and how effective are these policies?
Well, Nigeria has a national gender policy. Like you say, how effective? That's the problem. We lack the adequate data to say how effective it has been, because we don't really have a feedback mechanism when we bring up policies. It's good to bring up policies, but you must bring a commensurate feedback mechanism to be able to monitor and evaluate what has been the impact of those policies on the citizenry. You see, and that's what Nigeria always has at a disconnect. And that's one of the major challenges we are having as a nation. We are not a data-oriented nation. So to keep data and measure it over years is something Nigeria is yet to come abreast of, and that's why we're having challenges sometimes in bringing out evidence-based policies that will be meaningful and impactful to the citizenry, because we don't keep records of research we've done. Research and development has been a major challenge for Nigeria. We are not a research-based nation yet. That's why I'm sure that's the reason why STEM has not fully been implemented in Nigeria. They did try during the time I was growing up. We were trying to promote science and technology. And I remember when I went to school, I was at school in the north, in my class were 100, but only 3 female. And then it was a challenge. You can say, what are you doing here? What science are women? You should go to the back. I used to laugh and say, I want you. I've always been science-based. I've never done any art sports. But I found out that most people find it a challenge when they see women in science or math. They feel like, no, women should be cooking and home economics. I said, what do you mean by that? Nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. God has given each and everyone his brain. And you never can tell which one will be your forte, And that's why, for me now, looking at Nigeria as a nation, and for us to grow like all the other world major powers, research, science and development is key. Especially if you need to use data to influence policy, and those policies will now be impactful on the citizenry. If we don't have the data to pictorially see it, we won't make any difference. And that's one of the major challenges that we have.
So is it okay if I ask her something? Because I'm usually concerned when I see our lawmakers, talk. I'm concerned when I see them make certain policies, because then it seems like they are not school. It seems like we have people who are not educated, or who are not learned, or who don't even understand what governance is supposed to be, and they are making decisions. So how can people, for example, who do not fully grasp the reality of what data, what science can do for us as a country, how can they implement solutions that will change our lives?
That's because of the electoral system, how we elect our people in a position of authority, like I always ask them. That is key. And in our electoral system, it has always been flawed. We do the kind of politics that we run. We ensure that it's the no good, we want to call no future ambition even when we're young are the ones that get in there, because they're the ones that are able to fight and able to do the thuggery. The ones who are refined and educated don't want to be seen in those parts of their life, and they shy off. That's why sometimes when you see them talk, they don't understand, because they are not learned enough to understand what those things are and how those things can impact some of the policies that they make. Unfortunately, we don't have a culture where people call this. We should have a culture where people are learning continuously. We don't have that. That's one of the challenges again with most of our lawmakers, that they don't want to learn, because the world is evolving and digitally it is growing. So you need to keep abreast of all the new changes. When things come up, you can find out what's all this about. Okay, let's see how it's going to work. What can we use to, can we learn it and make some impact on this policy? Will we be able to make a difference? You see, when they're not willing to embrace change, even though they claim that they are supposed to be changing things, but they haven't changed anything. We're still back where we were more than 30 years ago, even though we're in a digital age. That's exactly what we're seeing play out now.
Women themselves, we have to talk to ourselves as people. We need to change the way we look at things. Men are not your ATM machine. Be independent, go out, get your own money, bring the meat to the table. And just like she said, when he sees that you have something to offer, that you are an equal partner, he has no choice than to respect you. Why do you think he disrespects you in the first place? So women, we have to reorientate ourselves. We have to do better. That is just how I feel that we can make more progress.
Okay, you just highlighted something, and I would like to take you on that. If you have a woman who was promised, don't worry, I'm getting married to you, you are still going to continue your job. Then after the marriage, it was the other way around. The man says, don't go to your work again. What do you think that woman should do?
Excuse me?
Because that's how violence starts in most homes. The man promises you heaven and earth. Then when you are in the marriage, you get change.
Again, to what she said, it's a partnership. It's a deal. This is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what I'm bringing to the table. If you're going into it in trust and in love, and if you get there, this is what I'll do. I'm not married, but if I were married, this is what I'll do. I will withdraw because you violated my trust. You've lied to me. You treat me. It's just like you have a business partner.
It's called deception.
Yes, and you both bring money, or you both decide to go into it, and then he pulls out his resources and he wants to keep benefiting. You pull out. There's no basis for it. I cannot trust you if you do that to me.
Okay, that brings me to
There are two sides to it.
okay.
At least I've seen a couple of men who say, okay, we don't work, but to tell the woman, said, if I'm not going to work, you're going to pay me, you're going to give me housekeeping. So you see, you need to understand, you need to be able to negotiate yourself. So pay me means that is what you're going to earn for yourself. Housekeeping is what you're going to use for the family. And if the man can't provide that, then there's no business with telling you not to work. And I always tell women, you need to lay out the cards straight. But finances are key. There are three things that causes violence in a relationship: sex, money, communication. So you need to be able to state very early and as soon as you get married, lay down the things on the table. But when it concerns money, if he's not going to be able to pay you what you need to look after yourself, to look good, your cream, your hair, your clothing, then there is no need for him to tell you not to work. You need to be financially independent. I've had a woman who said the husband told her, and the man was giving her a salary of 150 for herself and housekeeper. I said, you see, the man at least now he's working times 2. He said, who told me to not tell about the work? I said, that's his job. But you see, that was the agreement, because the woman stood her ground. If you know I'm earning so amount, you are going to pay every month, there's no negotiation. So you see, women, you need to learn to negotiation is a skill you need to learn. It concerns everything that's around you. Every aspect of life, you need to be able to negotiate your space, even in marriage. I always tell people, because sometimes women have been known not to advance in their careers because they say the children define my husband. I always tell people, come to the table, communication. Say, darling, this is my future. What is your own? Let us see how we can blend it. You see, we need to blend it, because me too, I want to be for myself, not for anybody else. And I have to agree with my husband. So, okay, when the children are this age, this is what I will do. After then, I can. See, but you see, the negotiation. So you need to learn to negotiate yourself, so that you also protect yourself from anything. Perchance anything happens, you will not be found, vulnerable.
Okay, let me ask you. The role of the family in marriage is very important. That the third party now.
Extended family.
Yes. What do you think a woman that is in an abusive relationship or like going through domestic violence that wants to leave, the family is saying, no, don't leave.
Please
and
leave.
she's a new bride. She doesn't want to leave because
Please
the marriage was
leave.
a societal marriage. What do you think?
Please leave first. You need to leave the scene or the environment of the violence. Both of you need to have a rethink of whether you can manage yourselves. Because women end up not living, they end up dying or killing somebody else. You first need to leave. Give yourself some time to reflect. Can we work it out? Are we going to be ready to discuss? Are we going to be able to go for counseling? Can we work? What are the issues causing the violence or the strife? We need to lay our cards on the table. I always tell people, once there is violence, leave the environment first. So when you leave the environment, you cannot reflect why was the violence being perpetrated? What are the issues? What were the root causes? In fact, from my experience in the Human Rights Commission, I found that most of the root causes are third party extended family. When you leave the man and the woman to themselves, they sort themselves out. Surprisingly, it's like I always tell the men, my challenge that I always tell the men is that yes, you have a family, but you need to be able to put a barrier for your family. Your wife is your wife, your mother is your mother. They are not the same. So whatever you discuss with your wife is you and your wife, your mother, you and your mother. Don't bring them together.
There is one thing that is existing, and that sums it up. There's an existing cultural fabric. So women, as women, we need to go past this cultural fabric because it has made a lot of things acceptable, but it's not meant to be. I have a life story of a woman that her husband, gets so violent with her, beats her and all, and the sister kept on telling her, we need to tell the police, we need to report this. But the woman resists, and she was like, will you wait until you are dead? And sadly, the woman there was a way he hit her. Later on, the lady had brain tumor. But this was something that could have been avoided. So now she has this perception that, oh, he's my husband, would they jail him and all. So a lot of things have gone wrong and a lot of things has gone acceptable.
We can make all the policies we have up there. But see, if you don't measure the impact of those policies on the people, you're not going to be sure whether the policies are driven rightly or they're implemented rightly or is meeting the impact if you don't monitor and evaluate it. And that's one thing that has been a challenge in Nigeria. We have a gender policy in Nigeria, and it's been in existence for quite a number of years. But have they been able to measure the impact, even of the Beijing platform of action? We've not been able to measure. And to government puts
So it's not a Nigeria issue, it's a global. Are you saying the global?
No, it's a Nigerian issue that we need to put in what they call a feedback mechanism of monitoring and evaluating the impact of the programming of our policies and our interventions. If we don't do that, we're not going to be able to measure. There must be what they call like a baseline study. We must have a base where we're starting from. This is how bad it was. Okay, we've made this policy. The policy has worked 4 years. In those 4 years, did it meet the target we wanted it to meet? Was it, were the people, are people changing their paradigm?
You are from the Human Rights Commission.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I think this falls within your jurisdiction.
That's what I'm saying, it actually falls within the jurisdiction of when it comes to gender policy, women affairs.
Okay.
But the issue like I told, like
Ministry
I said,
of Women Affairs.
I said,
Okay.
the problem we have in Nigeria is the issue of data-based evidence, policy and implementation. We don't have data. We don't have data servers. Maybe you are data journalists to be able to promote some of these steps. We need to be able to have homegrown data servers that we can use to measure.
Thank you very much.
That's-
Senami Koja.
For me, I feel the way institutions can, strengthen the clamor for equity or equality is, I think some things that are and this might be unpopular, but for me, some things are just unnecessary, and then they contribute in, stereotyping women and putting women in the box. And I'll give you an example. For example, I feel that the need to create the Ministry for Women Affairs is needless. For me, it's a very discrimination. Why is there no Ministry for Men Affairs? Yes, I know that men in our society today are empowered, they are more financially stable. But you don't try to tackle a problem by creating a ministry for it. Simply encourage women, or simply, it's just like for me, it's just about cultural reorientation. You don't have to. It's just like creating them. So, oh, okay, you should go to one side. You are in this thing, and then 35%. Who are the people who negotiated 35%? We make up. I was researching the other day. Women make up, I think, 66% of Nigeria's population, and then you have 35%. Why do people who make up 66% of the population have 35% in deciding how that country and its resources are managed and run? It makes no sense. We should be, we should be demanding 50-50. It's not a gradual process. We will not get there. The countries that are implementing it, that are, pushing for it, for me, it's just, I don't understand it. Maybe it's just me, but I don't understand it. And I feel that, institutions that encourage, for example, there should be policies, that encourage women, or there should be a quota, for a rotation quota. Once a minister is male, for example, the next minister in this position should be female. Not that, okay, certain ministries, Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Finance, the traditional areas where they feel that women do well, just like you were saying with teaching and and nursing and nurturing, the areas where they feel that women are better managers, and they put them. That's discriminatory, it's restrictive. It does not do anyone good. So in my opinion, we should. I don't see a need for Ministry of Women Affairs. There should be concrete policies, that are mainstreamed, that are implemented, that are evaluated to see results, and then they should be strengthened, not by Ministry of Women Affairs. Where are we today?
We should keep lending our voices. Just the same way we have this conversation that is stirring up, let the discussion keep happening, and let's also try to influence our little space. Because if we look at our communities, as small as our communities, our voices are silent. In your own street, you cannot come out, for example, you cannot come out when they're having like a meeting and all. It's about that. When we start doing that, we start owning up to responsibility. You understand? It's real. Just like yesterday, in the, they are trying to bring out like a Democratic nominee for the US who's going to compete with Trump. Now, the women activists, all of them were kind of very upset because Elizabeth Warren dropped out. Now, why was she dropping out? That woman is very intelligent. But they can't imagine her losing to Bloomberg, Joe Biden, because they don't really have the kind of substance that she has. So they're already in a system like in the US, there's already issues like that. It's existing. But I know that with time, let's just keep, change will come. Certainly, it will come. It's just like you said about how before you can't inherit. Even first daughters, you can't until maybe if the first son is the third child, that one has to get but things are changing. So I believe that if we keep lending our voices and start owning our space, influencing our little cycles, trust me, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah, okay, even yesterday, Engineer Maduka was there, the first female engineer. She was lamenting and saying that there are very little women in this space. And she's looking for women that are going to come and like own up, start taking responsibility, but she's not seeing anybody because nobody is willing. But it's not just about us speaking here, it's about us taking actions. Let's take action.